Okay, so let's start with today's class. So for today's class, we'll be learning user research method. So user research method refers to how you get your research done. So there are different ways you can get your research done. There are different methods to use when you're trying to come up with your research before you start coming up any digital product. So there are two ways to categorize research. So the first way is who conducts the research, and the second way is the type of data being collected. So who conducts the research? We have primary research and secondary um, research. So for primary research is the research you conduct yourself. Example, primary research is interview surveys. So surveys is like sending out Google Forms. The best way to create surveys with Google Forms, where you ask people a particular set of questions to know their view about a particular problem you want to design an application for, either a mobile app, dashboard, or a website or a web app. So basically, how surveys works is that when you create your Google Form, let me show you an example of what I mean by surveys. So there are sometimes that you might want to get the views of people, because most of all these research method that we're viewing going to be viewing, some of them has limitations. So most times you might want to like send out interview as plenty people at once, because if you start interviewing them one by one by just using like word of mouth to interview one person, it might take them. But surveys, this is like an example of a survey. So I created this survey, like I wanted to design an application that helps Lagosians find homes from the find affordable homes rather. So because if you live in Lagos, you know that most times when you are new to Lagos, finding a house as a new person in Lagos can be very, very difficult. So this was like the survey I created. So this is basically like different questions. So if you watch now here, I asked what were worst experience when finding a house in Lagos. Explain your worst experience with Lagos house agents. So I'm basically asking all these questions because I want to like get the response of people. If I'm to start interviewing people one by one, it might take time. So that's why I decided to like use surveys. So this survey, I created this survey with Google Forms. I'll be teaching us how to do that in a bit after we review the different user research method. So after creating this form, you can copy the link and send it to maybe any group chat where you know that you have Lagosians there, because this is like a common issue that people in Lagos usually face. So when you get the link, you paste it on the group chat and you also ask people to fill the form. So through that, you can actually get people's feedback about the digital about the application you want to design. The application can be a mobile app, it can be a dashboard, it can be a web app. So this is another way to like get to do user research, to get feedback from people before you actually start designing. So let's go over to the next one. So the next one now is secondary research. Is the research that use information that somebody else has already put together. So there are sometimes that you might want to make some research. Let me say, for example, you might want to like know the statistics of people, and let me say you might want to create a budgeting app. You might want to create a budgeting app. Then you might want to like read up some information about um what's it, how people budget, because this is already something that this is a topic that there's already existing information about. So there's no need for you to start interviewing people. How do you budget? How to do all those kind of things? There are some people that have already put up resources online. It can be a blog that talk about how people budget, how the human mind works, the challenges people face why budgeting. For example, you want to create a budgeting app, so most time there is no need for you to like start interviewing people again. You just have to make use of information that is already existing. So most time this information, it can be a blog, it can be what's it called, a book, ebook, or it can even be a YouTube video. There are some projects that I've worked on in the past. It's like a new technology that is not being used in Nigeria. Sometimes you have to like watch videos and read about that technology to know how that technology actually works before you start designing. Please, are we all following? If you understand so far, please say something in the chat section. I want to be sure we're following. You understand what I said? Okay, okay. So let's move on to the next one. So remember that we said that there are two ways to categorize research: who conducts the research and the type of data being collected. So I've already talked about who conducts the research, which is primary research and secondary research. Then we have the type of data being collected. We have quantitative research and qualitative research. So quantitative research is often based on surveys of large numbers of people using numeric answers. So most times you might want to like know a statistics of people facing a particular problem before you start designing. So the best research to do is quantitative, because that one is like giving you the percentage of people. Okay, in the world, this particular app we want to create. For example, you want to create an application that helps the world. For example, let's take for example COVID. I think there was a time there was this particular time when this COVID stuff was serious. There's people creating different apps to help the whole scenario. So most times before you start creating those kind of application, you need to like know the total numbers of people facing this particular issue. So sometimes you might want to like know the statistics of people facing a particular problem. So you knowing the statistics will also affect the future that you're going to be designing for, because you know that okay, this future that I'm about to design is something that people need, is something people need urgently. Then we have qualitative research focused on the observation about why and how things happen. So most times, this has to do with when you are trying to like test your prototypes. What I mean by test your prototypes, like test your designs, the design you come up with on Figma. So most times when testing them, you have to like observe your user closely, observe how they are using the product, because by the time you observe them, and most time when observing, you tend to also like look at the way they navigate through the application, also look at their facial expression, because most times you might be testing your app and you might ask the user, how does this is this app, are you finding it easy? The person, maybe the person might just want to tell you what you want to hear. The person might say yes, but most times you tend to like pay attention to every details. As a product designer, you tend to like pay attention to every details, even when doing your research, when people are interacting with your designs. You need to pay attention to the way the person interacts with your design, with the way the person's facial expression is, because the person might be facing a particular difficulty. We all know when somebody is facing a particular difficulty by looking at the person's face. So most times you need to be very, very observant as a product designer. So the simple way to know the difference between quantitative and qualitative research is that quantitative research gives you the what, why quantitative research gives you the why. Okay, so we have some common research method. So the first one is interview. We also have surveys. We have usability test. So okay, so we have some common research method. So we have interview, we have surveys, we have usability tests. So interview is a research method used to collect in-depth information on people's opinion, thoughts, experience, and feelings. So most times when carrying out interview, this simply means that most times you need to interview people one on one, ask them some question. So most times when interviewing people, you need to like ask an open-ended question. That's the way you ask a user a particular question, the person will start explaining more about the challenge the person is having. So most times when interviewing somebody, you will know the person's experience, the person's feeling, the person's thought process. So for example, the kind of question you should ask when interviewing somebody, if you just pay attention to these two questions. So we're trying to like know the difference, like the what I mean by an open-ended question to ask when conducting interview. So if you look at these two questions now, one is how would you rate your experience using an app from 1 to 10? If you ask a user this kind of question, um how does the user rate their experience using app from 1 to 10? The person might just tell you 5. But as a product designer, if somebody tell you 5, that does not really like that does not give you like a view of the person's overall experience, because person might just say 5. 5 can be anything. But if you ask a question, how was your experience using the app, the person might start explaining, oh, the button was too small, I don't know how to navigate from point A to point B, the app is kind of confusing. So the person will start opening up and start like vomiting things about their, like, person will start expressing the person's self, the person's thought, and you now have like an in-depth knowledge of what the person is going through when the person is using your application. So that using your application or a particular problem. So just be with me. So most times interviews can be used before you start designing, even after you start designing. Remember our um design thinking. Let me go back to what we talked about in our former class. So we talked about design thinking in our last class. So design thinking is basic. I just want to do a little bit of recap so that you understand what I'm trying to explain about interview. So design thinking now is basically tools that you use to solve a particular problem creatively. So we have 5 phases of design thinking, as according to what we talked about, we learned in our last class. We have the empathize, the define, the ideate, the prototype, and the test. So one thing you should know that is that this design thinking process, when your app is being launched, the you trying to like learn and get feedback from your users doesn't end, because most times as junior designers we might tend to feel, oh, I've finished designing this app, the app has been developed, that means my work has done. No, you still need to like you still need to like know whether the app you designed is actually solving the user's problem. So most times there are different ways you can know, is by maybe calling the user to telling like giving the prototype to a particular user, let the user use it, and you observe how the user is interacting with that digital product. Or another way you can also know is that maybe if the app is launched and is on Play Store, sometimes you can also know through the feedback people give about the app on Play Store. So this design thinking process, it doesn't end, it's iterative. So as you can see here, it's moving in circle here. The first one is empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So even despite the fact your product is being launched, you still need to like empathize, you still need to like review the app and know whether this app you actually launched. This thing trying to explain now is called post-launch research, where your application is already launched. You still need to find out whether this application that you launch, because your work has not finished as a developer or as a designer, because the app is launched, you still need to ask the question, this app that we what was it called we develop, is it actually solving the user's problem? The main reason we created this app, is it actually solving that need? So this is one of the reasons why, if you notice, WhatsApp is always like working on their UI design. Sometimes you just come to a particular app, you see update. It's because most of all these apps, they are still working on the app despite the fact they have thousands of users using the particular app. So just like what I explained, is like a win-win. No, one of the I explained something in our last class, that the way most of all these apps gain from the app is when they have thousands of users on it. So because they have thousands of users, So they make money because when somebody wants to run a particular app, for example, Facebook, they make some of their money through running of ad. They have thousands of people on their platform. If any company wants to run any ad and the company comes to pay Facebook a particular money, Facebook is going to make money. The company is also going to make money because Facebook have a large customer base, a large users base that will surely need that product that the company wants to advertise. So that's why most of all these application that you use, whether it might be a, when I mean application, I'm not only talking about mobile app application. I What I mean is, I most times I do mention application, I do mention digital products. Digital products simply means our app, our website, our web apps are those applications that you use online. There are some applications that you don't need to download it on your system to use, but you can just use it through your browser. Those things are called web apps in SaaS too. So all those kind of stuff. So anytime you see me talking application, I don't just mean mobile app. So despite the fact that these applications are being launched, the companies still work to improve their user experience because they know quite well that the more they improve their user experience, the more they make money as a company, and the more people they keep people on their platform. So what I'm basically explaining is that this design thinking process does not end even despite the fact your product is being launched. If your product is being launched, you still need to empathize, understand whether the product you launch is actually solving the problem. If a particular user is laying a particular complaint, you need to empathize with the person, feel the pain. Empathy simply means trying to be in the shoes of the person you are designing for. I made mention of something in our last class that you are not designing for yourself, you're designing for people to use it. So as a designer, most times, majority of the time, you need to come out of your design and ask yourself whether this thing you designed is actually solving the problem of the user, because you're not the one to use your design. Your design is going to be used by thousands of people that annoy you. So you need to like avoid any form of bias, come out of your design and ask yourself whether this thing you came up with, this thing you designed either for whether an app, a dashboard, a SaaS application, and whatever, you ask yourself whether this is actually solving the problem. So despite the fact it's launched, you still need to empathize, define the problem, come up with ideas to solve that particular problem that people are complaining about as the product is launched. Then you prototype, you test again. So this design thinking process, it basically moves in circles. So most times, another way to when you are trying to like find out some stuff about users, you also need to interview them. So sometimes maybe you might meet if somebody that use your application, you might want to talk to the person one on one, interview the person to know the person, what the person is feeling about the app, the person's experience in general, and also try as much as you can to actually ask open-ended questions so that the person can actually like open the person's, like the person can actually vomit more about the experience the person had. Because there are some questions you ask, the person might just give you a direct answer. Oh, yeah, just like the question we just talked about here. How would you rate the experience using the app on from scale of 1 to 10? The person can just tell you five, but you don't know what that five means. You don't know whether the five means that the app is scattered, the app structure is poor. So you just generally ask the person, how was the experience using the app? You ask the person, how was the experience using the app? So the person will start expressing the person self, oh, the font is poor, the structure is not good, I could not find information, I could not navigate, the user experience, the app is frustrating me, the app couldn't solve my problem. So with that, when you get that kind of feedback, you can always come back and um work, improve your application. Do you understand so far? So if you understand so far what I just explained, say something in the chat section. I want to be sure everybody is following. Yeah, Samuel, I can see your message in the chat section. So yeah, so that's it. So let's move on to the next one. So remember that we're talking about common research methods that we can use to like get feedback from our users before we start creating our apps. So the next thing now is surveys. So surveys is especially is what I talked about when I showed the Google form. So So for surveys now, it's an activity where many people are asked the same questions in order to understand what most people think about a product. So this survey now is very easy to do, because most times when interviewing people, you might need to start asking them question one by one. Though each um design research method have their own drawbacks and benefits. It will be touching on that in a bit. So surveys, for example, let me show you the Google form again so that you understand what I mean by surveys. So remember that okay. So let's continue. So confirm you can hear me loud and clear. My audio is okay. Let me try sharing my screen to confirm that you can see my screen very well. Can you see my screen? Okay. Okay, so let's continue. So the last thing I said before my internet went off was we're talking about surveys. So surveys are activities where many people are asked the same questions in order to understand what they think about a product. So these surveys can also be sent before you actually start coming up with your designs for any digital product at all. So most time you can also send surveys to know what people think, all those kind of stuff. So let's review an example of a survey. So this is a simple survey I created. I want to create an app that helps people in Lagos and find affordable houses with ease, because I noticed that when you are new in Lagos to get a when you are new in Lagos to get a house in Lagos is very very frustrating. It's very very challenging. So I sent out surveys to know like the mindset of people, to know the percentage of people going through this particular issue, and to also know their mindset. So this is like a simple way. This is like a survey. I created this with Google Form. So I think I'll be teaching us how to create this in a bit. So this is the Google Form here. So in this Google survey now, I ask questions. What are your worst experience when finding house in Lagos? So I made this a paragraph so that when I send the form, people can actually like explain for me to like know their experience. So because this survey actually saves time, because instead of me to be meeting people one on one to be asking them, oh, you live in Lagos, how can you say, before I can interview hundreds of people, if I'm the only one doing it, it will be very very tiring. But this this Google form now, I can list out the question. I can send it to a group chat that has thousands of people that live in Lagos, and they will fill the form. So these are the questions I put in the form. The first one is what was your worst experience when finding a house in Lagos? The second one is explain your worst experience with Lagos house agent. So the third one is how will you feel if you have an app that can pair you with a good house agent in Lagos, because there are so many experience of so many Lagos house agents being very, very tricky. So most times if you want to get a house, some of them will take you to some houses that are not really nice, and you end up spending a huge amount of money in agent fee. So if there can be an app that can actually get legit house agents that are sincere, that are not tricky, that are not corny, is really going to like help to solve this kind of problem. So I also asked a question: how do you rate the housing experience in Lagos? So I gave them an option for them to select either excellent, very good, good, fair, or poor. So I also asked them a question: if you have an app that will help you to get a house in Lagos, how will you feel about using that app? So this is like a question that they will have to explain. So I also went further to ask, how much do you spend for house rent per year? So I list down different budgets. I want to know the budget of the users I'm creating for, to know their budget, so that, for example, because most of the people that might be filling this form, there might be people that their house rent might be in this range, 250 to 500. So that means you need to know that people need this future more, people that are looking for affordable housing, that there are so many people that need this future more. Please, are you guys following? Do you understand what I'm saying? Are you hearing me clearly? I want to be sure my internet is not messing me up. Okay, okay, so let's continue. So the last question I asked on this my survey is how difficult it is to find a flat in Lagos. So I send this out to a particular group chat. So to send this, you can copy the link from here, copy the link and paste it in a group chat. It can be pasted in any group chat at all, either in Discord or on WhatsApp. So this was the response I got. So for the question of what was your worst experience when finding a house in Lagos, these are people's experience. You can see this one. This one said scammers are and agents. So somebody said my worst experience was when I had to pay for an apartment that was also rented out to another person. So when sending all these things, you tend to know different people's pain points before you even start designing, because this thing can like give you a view of people's experience and make it, and to also influence the future you're going to have on that app. Because this kind of app will also have like a part where you can, for a part for the agent and a part for people that wants to come to get a house. So this is the response for explain your worst experience with Lagos agents. So see some feedback here. Some people say they are greedy and wouldn't take you anywhere until until you satisfy them, because most of all these Lagos house agents, they tend to like take your money. So this was all the feedback I had. So this Google form also showed like a statistics of a particular this one is how do you rate housing in Lagos. So this form actually segmented people's response into statistics, so that I can know the percentage of people that can say the housing in Lagos is fine, is good. Some people said is fair. I think this is like 9.1%, like 1% poor was 2, because total number of people that fill this one, they actually 11. So if you can see here, you can see the numbers of people that say good. Here, excellent was 1%, poor was 2, and fair was 2. So most of all these things now can actually give you feedback of like things that your users, people that you are designing this application for, are actually thinking. And this survey is very cheap. It's very easy to do. Google form is free. You can just get the link and you can send it to any group chat to get feedback. Because one drawback about interviewing is that most times you need to like stand, interview somebody for long hours, you need to record, you need to all those kind of. So even survey also have its own drawbacks, because with surveys you can't ask open-ended questions. So most times people can just like give you a short answer, because this one I made an option where they can type. Some people might not want to. There are some experience some people might have that it will not, is not, they might not want to type it out. So it's only if you talk to them one by one on one, that's when you will know the experience. But surveys can also still work if you want to come up with ideas for designing your apps at all, for you to know what the users you're about to design for are thinking, their pain points. So that's another research method. So another research method is Usability studies, a technique to evaluate a product by testing it on users. So usability studies can be done when you come up with your designs. I explained a little bit about it. You need to test it on actual users. Remember, the people you are designing your app for, they are not for you. Most time you might design an app, the app might be used by people outside the country, people that are not even around your own location. So you need to have like an inclusive mindset. So there's something called being inclusive when designing. I think I've explained a little bit about that in our last class, where most times you need to like bear in mind that there are different users that have different type of problems. Some users, they might have eye defects, some people they don't hear, some people are disabled, all those stuff. So there are counted disabilities people face when using digital products online. So most times you need to like be inclusive, and you also need to make sure that you also like test your product, because the more you test your product, it makes you like to come out of your design. Because most times you might come up with a design, you'll be like, oh, this design looks so good, I'm the designer, you might be praising yourself, but your design is not good until it's being tested with actual users. So most times you test your prototypes. What I mean by prototype is the designs you come up with on Figma. Most times you can test with those your designs that you created on Figma before it's being developed. You can also test even when the application is being developed. So just like what I said, design thinking process, it doesn't end even when the app is being launched. You still need to like test your app to learn from users, all those stuff. So we actually have some drawbacks. So we have talked about the we started with the user design method, two categories, two ways to categorize research, who conducts the research, and the type of data being collected. Then we'll also talk about some common research methods. So most times you might have a particular problem you might want to design for. So you might be confused on the particular design method to choose. So let's just review the benefit and drawbacks of each of these design methods, so that you can like have know the one that you love to choose whenever you want to come up with any project at all. So we have secondary research. So benefit of secondary research is that it saves time and money. So remember what we said about secondary research is like making use of information that is already existing. Like sometimes you might want to like before you design, you might want to like read up about a particular thing. So let's go back to what we said about secondary research. Secondary research is research that uses information someone else have already put together. It can be books, articles. So most times when using secondary research saves time and money, because you are already instead of you to start what was it called, talking to people. Because most times there are some part of research where you need to like spend money, but there are some research that you don't need to spend money at all. It's very, very easy for you to do those research without spending money. Please, SOJ, hold on with that question. You're asking for the slide, so just hold on. I'll ask the admin before letting giving you the slides, giving you guys the slides. I have to confirm from the admin first. But as I'm explaining, try to like jot down. If you have any questions, it will soon be time for you to ask your questions. So you can ask questions so that you can fully understand the class. But always try to like jot as I'm talking. Try to jot if something you don't understand. I will even that of last class. So just hold on with that. I will confirm from the admin if I'm permitted to share before I can share the slide. So just try to jot down as this class is going on. So for secondary research now, we say secondary research saves time and money, because this one you don't need to like start interviewing people, all those stuff. Remember, there was a time I gave a scenario of when Google, there was this particular product Google wanted to develop for Indian. So Google has to like take some of their user researchers who are Indian for them to be there, for them to understand the culture. I think we explained about some of what is in our last class, when most times before you even start designing any product at all, you need to understand your users. Understanding them is not just only in the surface level. Sometimes you need to understand their culture, their way of life, their way of doing things, their motive. What does this user do when they wake up in the morning? So is like you need to like go in depth because you're trying to like create a product that is going to be like part of the person's life and can actually improve the person's life. So before you build those kind of products, you need to like study the person. So this kind of research, where for example you want to, just like the one I just gave a scenario of Google wanting to create a particular product for Indians, they had to like send some researchers, use some user research team to India for them to observe them. All those things cost money because you sending them there, you need to pay for their food, their them what was it called, lodging there, them being in that place. Sometimes it can even take months because you then have to like calm down and research and understand some things about their culture to create those particular kind of apps. So secondary research, you don't need to like spend money because the information is already online. You just go up there and read. It saves you time, it saves you money, it's easy to access, immediately accessible, and you can use secondary research to back up your primary research. So these are like the benefits of secondary research. Then we have drawbacks of secondary research: no first-hand user interaction. If somebody trying to say something, please, if your mic is muted, your mic must be muted. I don't know, somebody's mic is on.
Yeah, you can go ahead. I've muted the person. Go ahead.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much for that. So we have some drawbacks for secondary research: no first-hand user interaction, no specific user feedback. Because when doing secondary research, because you know that secondary research are basically depending on the research that somebody has already created and person has put in and put online. Most of what these secondary research can be you reading blogs about it, a particular technology that you have to design for. Maybe the technology is not rampant. You need to like read it up to understand what the technology is all about, all those kind of stuff. So most times when reading all those blogs, articles, it can also be a video. You might not have like way to start seeing users interacting with the product. You're just creating the product depending on what people say or the information that you already find online. So most times the user cannot give you feedback. Like interview now, you might be interviewing somebody about a particular problem, and the person will be giving you feedback. Person will be answering you. You'll be asking questions. The person will be answering your question, even explaining a lot of things in details. So these are like some of the drawbacks of secondary research. Then we have interviews. Benefits of interviews: that you understand what the user thinks and why. So you tend to understand the user very well through interview because you are seeing the person, you are asking a lot of questions. Even most times when interviewing somebody about a particular product you want to create, or maybe the product has already been launched and you are asking for feedback, you tend to like record the person, what the person is saying, because during interview the person actually gives detailed explanation. So most of all those detailed explanation you cannot carry it in your head, so you can use your phone recorder to record it so that you will not miss out on anything the person is saying. Just like what we explained in interview, you can always ask follow-up questions. You can ask the users questions in details to understand their pain point, to understand their point of view, their challenge. So that's like the benefit of interview, using interview, using interview for your coming up with ideas for your applications. And then another one is the drawbacks for interview. Then we have interviews takes time and money. So most times you might interview somebody, you might be talking to the person for long hours. You need to like, because most times when talking with somebody, before you know the time is going, there are sometimes that you even need to, sorry, let me confirm something. So there are sometimes that you might create a particular product. So there are sometimes you might create a particular product, and you bring in some set of people to come and use the product to see, you want to see whether this product you design is actually solving a problem. For you to actually bring, you can bring those people maybe to a particular place.
Nice affair. Good job, too.
Please, or is it Ugoma? Like, I don't understand. Please learn to always mute your mic so that I won't be distracted, please. So let's continue. So I was mentioning that interviews, it takes time and money, because there are some time that you might come up with a particular design and you want to test the design you came up with for this digital product. You want to test it on users. There are sometimes you need to call people to use the app. You after the people after those people finish using the app and you start observing them to get feedback and also interview them. At the end, you might want to buy them snacks, all those stuff, because most times there are some companies that they bring people to test their product. They actually pay them. So some people, they just tell the company what they want to hear. They'll be like, "Oh, the product is nice," so that the company will just and maybe pay them their money or give them they're just after the money that they will get after testing the product. So most times that one is by the way. So most times the interview takes time and money, because somebody, you call somebody to come and test your app, all those kinds. Sometimes you might need to like give the person some cash, all those stuff. And interview, it only like when interviews a particular app, or you're doing an interview before you start creating a digital product. It's usually a small sample of people. You cannot, like, as one person, you cannot interview so many people. So this is where using of surveys comes in handy, because with surveys now you can ask different questions and you can send it. SOJ, please, what are you saying in the chat section? I don't understand. Okay, you're referring to what I'm saying. Okay, don't worry. So that was just it about interview. So that's why surveys are very very useful, because with surveys you can get feedback. It's very easy to do. You can get feedback from so many people. With one particular Google form, you can send what was it called, surveys to a group that has thousands of people, and 100 people will give you response on this particular on your particular questions in a few minutes. Unlike interview where you need to like start interviewing somebody one on one, all those kind of thing takes time. So that's just it about the drawbacks of interview. So we have surveys, just like what I said, surveys, large sample size. You can use it to what was it called, to get feedback from large numbers of people. It saves time, it's fast, it's inexpensive. Google Form is free. So one drawbacks of surveys that is no in-depth feedback. I've explained about this I think I've explained a little bit about this, that in surveys, you cannot ask like questions like the way you ask when you are trying to like interview people. If you're interviewing somebody, you ask in-depth information, in-depth you ask questions and the person will give you in-depth feedback. But in surveys it's not possible. It's just the question you have that the person will just reply, because the person cannot start explaining something that will be very easier to say with man. The person cannot start typing it on the form. So that's like the drawback of survey. Then we have usability studies. So for usability now, the benefit is first-hand user interaction. You can see the user using the product. So it also challenge assumption, so you get in-depth feedback. Usability studies, because you see the user with your two eyes in real life. You see the person interacting with the product. Because just like what I said, as a product designer, you need to like come out of your design room and avoid every form of bias. Don't say because I'm the one that designed it, that means the app is good. Your app is not good until it's being tested. So you need to like, don't, just like what I explained in our first class, all the apps that you use, it was not created for fun. It was not created through assumption. It was actually created for to solve a problem for a particular set of users that have that particular set of problem. So one thing about usability studies is that it challenge any form of assumption, because you might assume about something and create a particular feature. By the time you test the application on real users, you start seeing that, oh, this application has some issues, all those stuff. And with usability studies you can get in-depth feedback by asking open-ended questions, and the user will start giving you feedback about whether they are finding it difficult to use your application. So drawbacks of usability studies only measures how easy a product is to use. Is expensive because you have to, like, sometimes for people to come and use your app, then you have to pay them some money. Sometimes you even need to like call them in a real lab. Like some companies have some labs where they bring in people to use their product to test it. So most times, the one reality about this thing is that the way somebody is going to use your app when the person is in the lab is different from the way the person is going to use the app when the person is in their house. So I think that was something I explained in our last class, that there are different situation people face in their houses that affect the way they use your applications. So sometimes the application that you are testing in your lab, maybe your lab is bright, there is no rain falling in your lab, everywhere is okay, all those kind of things. The person can be smiling, the person can be using the lab, but the way the person will use the application rather, when the person is facing a particular problem, the problem might be rain, might be any situation at all. When the person might be in a place that is very hot, or the person might be facing a particular scenario that you might not even think of when you are creating the app. Person might be using that particular app in a different scenario outside the lab. You call them to come and use so that you can observe them. So that's like one of the drawbacks, because somebody, you might call some set of people to use your application in your lab or just for you to observe them, but the way the person will use the application in your lab and the way the person will use the application in your house is two different things. Because in the person's house, the person might go through some kind of like difficult situations that might affect the way they use your application. So most time you need to like have all these things in mind before you start what is it called, before you start designing. You need to know that different scenarios affect different ways people use your applications. So that's it. So if you have any question, you can ask. So the next thing we'll be doing, we'll be learning how to create a simple survey form with Google Forms. So if you have any question with what we have learned so far, so you can ask so that we can move on to the next one. So do anyone have any question? So there was some question that was being asked in our last class that I couldn't answer. So you can also ask those questions. I think there was like 2 to 3 questions that was being asked that I couldn't answer. So you can also ask. Please, can everyone hear me? Confirm you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, okay. So if you have any questions so far, either from our last class, just ask. So if there is no question, we'll just move on to creating our Google Forms. So to create Google Form is very easy. So let me go to, so the easier way to access your Google Form is by going to your Gmail account this way. If you go to your Gmail account, if you click on this 9 dots here, if you scroll down, you see forms. So we want to create a survey that we're going to be sending our our Discord channels. So I'll create the survey. I'll send the survey to our Discord so that we can see how we can actually get feedback. So creating a survey is very easy. So this is my Google form now. So let me look for a particular idea. Okay, maybe I might still use this my finding a house in Lagos idea. Okay, let me say I want to create an app for that helps farmers to sell their farm produce at ease. So let me say, for example, I want to create that kind of app. So I want to create a Google form for it so that I can send out service to the Discord channel to get feedback from people. If, for example, the Discord group is where I know that I can get farmers, all those kind of stuff. So I will just create it and send it there. So to create a Google form, once you open your Google form, so you come to this place, this plus here. Once you click on it, you create a fresh form. So here you need to give your form a title so that people that are going through the form, they will know what your form is all about. So here I'm going to type um the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm giving my form a title. So the next thing now, I'm going to give it a description. So this is like the title: application that helps farmers. So let me change this. So farmers sell their farm produce at ease. So I'll just give this a simple. So you see the way I made it bold. So it was like this before. So I had to select it and make it bold. You can make the title Italy. You can underline it. You can add a link if you want. You can strike unstrike everything. So but this time I want to just make it bold. Here I want to make it very bold. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to write a description that explains this. So let me write a description. So you can see what I gave as a description here. So I wrote, we observe that farmers has issues with selling their farm produce after harvest. So we want to create an online marketplace that helps them solve this issue. They can still go on to explain the idea you want to design for, because people that are going to be filling this form, they are going to see this title. So let me paste this here. Let me paste this here. Okay, it's already there, so that the form is going to have a name. So let me give more explanation. We'll have ready to buy customers. So you can see what I added. Please, I hope everybody is following. Please, if you are following so far, see something in the chat section. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. So this is what I gave as my description. We observe that farmers has issue with selling their farm produce after harvest. So we want to create an online marketplace that helps them to solve this issue. This online marketplace will have ready to buy customers from all around the world. Now I will now down here. So the same way you can select, and the same way we were able to bold this text is the same way you can do this here. You can bold this, make it italic, make this underline. You can even make this what's it called? Give this like number, numbering, give the text numbering or bullets. So I will just keep it this way. Just want to keep it simple. So the next first question I'm going to ask now. So so the first question I'll be asking will be how often. So these surveys now, if for example I know a group chat maybe that has different farmers there. So these questions I'll be asking now is for the farmers because I want to get some information about the farmers. So I can also create another form that also asks that also interviews like the people that are going to be buying this farm produce from the farmer. So this survey now is for the farmer now. So the first question I'll be asking now is how often. The first question I ask now is how often do you um harvest harvest your crops? So so this one now I'm going to make it a paragraph because I want the user to explain, the person filling the form, which is going to be the farmer, to explain. So you can see here I selected paragraph because I want the explanation to be long. You can make the explanation to be short by selecting short answer. For example, you want the person to select either true or false or maybe multiple choices. You can use this one. If you can also use check boxes too and drop down. You can also tell the person to upload a particular file or to select date and time depending on what you want. But this one, we're just going to keep it simple. We just use short answer. So now I'll make this particular answer required by clicking here. So to make this particular this thing required, meaning I'm making this question compulsory. So what I mean by required is that there are some times that you might want to fill form online, then you still want red asterisks in that form. So that is telling you that that's info data that the form is telling you to fill is compulsory. So that's why I made this request. So that's the same functionality with this request. So I'll be adding another cell. So I'm going to so let me change this to often. Yeah, I made a little bit of mistake here. How often? So the question is so now this is another question. So this particular question is saying if there is a marketplace where you can sell your farm produce, will you like to use it? Because another thing to consider is that most of all these farmers want to know if let's make it online marketplace because sometimes we also need to know whether these people are conversant with using mobile devices and phones, all those stuff. If there is an online marketplace where you can sell your farm produce, will you like to use it? Then you have to make this one a paragraph so that the person can explain in full. I'll also make this required. So Maybe for example you want to make the app maybe a mobile app, because majority of the time some of these farmers, there are some of them that knows how to use Android phone, so it won't be wise if you make the application desktop, except you want to create dashboards or something. So let's just ask the farmers how they, whether if they can make use of phones, laptops, all those stuff. So let's just ask that question for us to be sure, because this will actually help us to, we are going to make this a multiple choice, because this will actually give us feedback whether this application that we're creating for these farmers, whether the farmers can actually interact with it, because there are different kind of farmers. So there are some farmers that are learning it too. So but let's just ask the questions to be sure. How will you um, create your okay. So I'm asking now, how often do you have access to phones and laptops? So let me bold this. Now make this multiple choice. So the first one is never. So I want them to select. I want to know the people, the percentage of people that select never. Never have access. Let me just say never. Then the next one is okay. Occasionally can go. Sometimes, often, always. See, Google Form is already giving me options already. Is somebody trying to say something? So never, occasionally, sometimes, often, always. As I think this is enough. So let me add the fourth. I'll make this required because this is very very important for us to know. So the next thing now, let me create another one by adding the plus. So I'll be asking the last questions now. Okay. Let me go to the questions. How often do you harvest your crops? It is an online marketplace you can sell. Okay, would you love to use it? How often do you have access to phones and laptop? Okay. I'm asking uh how are your pricing rates for farm produce for your farm? How are your pricing rates for your farm produce? I'll make this bold. Then I'm going to give this a multiple choice. So I'm going to give this a multiple choice. Just use fair. Let me use affordable. Affordable. Mm, a little expensive. Little expensive, costly. So I can add one more. I'll still make this required too. Make this required. So let me add one more so that they can list the different farm produce they have. What are the type of farm? Um, what are the type of crops you produce? I think let me put the question that way. Type of crops you produce. So this one now I can I can give maybe a paragraph for them to list what are the type of crops you produce. So now that I'm done, I'll make this required too. So now that I'm done with my form, I'm going to go to our Discord channel and I'll paste the link. So for me to paste the link now, I'll click on send, then go to you can add somebody's email if you want to send it to somebody's email or something. So here the link now. I want to send the link to the Discord group. So this is where I went to. I came to send here. Then click on this link sign. Copy. You can copy the link from here. You can shorten the link here. So I'll right click, copy, or click on this copy here to copy the link. Then I'll go to our Discord channel, then paste it. Then once I paste it on Discord channel, try filling the form so that we can see the response through here. So I'm pasting it now on the so let me paste it here on the Discord group. So for example, you created a survey like this and you want to paste it on a group. You don't just paste the link because if you paste the link, somebody might not know what the form is, the link is all about. So now I'm pasting it. I'm going to give a little explanation of what is contained in the link. And then I'll paste the link. So just watch what I'm about to do now. So you can see what I typed here. So you need to um give a little bit of this a little bit of description here. So let me correct some of my spelling mistake here. So I'm saying, hey guys, I am trying to create an application that helps farmers. So let me correct this to farmers that helps farmers sell their farm products at produce easily. This platform also connects the farmers with buyers. So then I will now add full stop, then paste the link. So you can also do this too. You can also share this link on WhatsApp group that you know you're going to find people. So once I click enter, people um people are going to see it. So if you are active on the if you are active on the Discord group, you can click okay, let me paste it here on the chat section. Let me see if we can access it here from the chat section too. But if you're active on Discord, you can click the link and fill the form so that we'll see how to get the response in case you want to do yours. So let me copy the link. Yeah, so sorry about that, guys. My network kicked me out, so that's why you couldn't hear anything. So if you can hear me now, see something in the chat section, and also try to fill the form so that we can review the response. Okay, I can see 6 call. So we're 40 on this call. There's only 6 people that tapped on the link. Yeah. Yes, but we just have few people. We just have six. You can see here. Okay, let me share my screen so that you see what I'm showing you. Okay, somebody said Okay, let me resend it. Yes, I'll resend the link. We are just trying to learn how to send out surveys. So it's not like, for example, if I have a group chat where I can find farmers, I will just send it there. You can use these surveys for anything at all. It must not be for farm. Or just like you can send that survey for any particular idea you want to create. You might want to come up with a particular design for your portfolio. Then before you come up with that design, you want to do some research. You send that surveys to know people's feedback. So that's why we're learning how to do this. You must not be a farmer. I just gave this as a scenario. So if you look at this form now, question is the place where we see the questions we enter. Then response is the place where we see what people has responded to our form. You can see this one now is giving us like a quantitative research. So let me show you what I mean. So remember here, quantitative, where this one is showing us numbers of people. Um, This one, for the people that said their product is costly is two. Then people that said their product is affordable is eight. So right now we know that, okay, so we can create an app where people can buy affordable farm produce. So maybe it might be your network, Augustine. I think you say you're finding it difficult to what is it called? To tap on the link. Maybe it's from your network. Try tapping again. Okay, so let's review the form together. Okay, let me resend it. Emmanuel, let me resend the link again. So I've pasted the link again. So let's review the response. So here we ask, how often do you harvest your crops? Some people say monthly, some people say twice every month, some people say every day. So through this you can like know what your users are thinking they are doing before you start creating an app. So now we say twice every 3 months. Some people say every day. This every day. Does somebody harvest crops every day? Very often. I had never harvested any crop. Twice a year. So from this now you can know maybe the availability of the farm produce. So right now we have people that farmers that are doing different crops. We have maize, cassava, rice, beans. I think maize is kind of like plenty. People say vegetable and fruits. So with this now, you will know the kind of farm produce. Like if you want to what's it called? Create, because I said this particular application okay, let's okay. So okay, let me share my screen. Okay. So here we know that we can list out different produce. For example, if we want to create a part of the app where people, the marketplace where people can actually, please, can you hear me clearly? If you can hear me clearly, say something in the chat section. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. So remember that I said that there will be a place in this particular app will have two parts, for one for the farmers, another one for the people that want to come and buy. So the place that people can come and buy is mostly the marketplace, and we will know the kind of products we are going to list there: rice, cassava, potato, yam, um cash crops, pawpaw, all those kind of. So we're going to like list it directly from the farmers. We're going to list all those products so that people can come and buy there. So that's the advantage of this one, knowing that the products that are ready, that people can actually what's it called, purchase if they are to come to the app to buy. So that's one advantage of these questions here. So here we have, how are your pricing rates of the farm produce? So so many people say affordable, 70%, which is 12 people. They said affordable. Then if we go up here, how often do you have access to phones and laptops? This is very important because we want to know how often do these people have access. So they said always. Okay, so that means we can make the app responsive, and we can make a mobile app. It can also be a web app. We can make it an app that somebody can access through the phone, or a web app that somebody can access through their phone. Then the dashboard would be through laptop. That means those people that can be able to use it. Then here we have, if there is an online marketplace where you can sell your farm produce, would you like to use it? So somebody said no. Somebody said, some people say yes. Somebody said no, except we will take it to the market and probably post it on WhatsApp status. Okay, so right now you're seeing different opinion. So this is like giving you a view that, okay, when launching this app, because of this particular question you ask, you know that some people are asking me, some people are saying maybe, some people are saying yes, some people are saying definitely. So you can actually like test this feature, create like the minimal the minimal part of this app. You can just create the minimal version, launch it, and see how this particular feature actually works. So how often do you harvest? Okay, we've already covered this. So that's just basically how to like send out surveys and like get feedback um, from users before you start creating, or even after you you design your app even after development too. So we're all almost coming to the end of today's class. So if you have any question, so you can ask now. So if there is no other question, we'll call it a day and see you next week, Wednesday, in our next class. So if you have any question, you can ask in the chat section before we call it a day. Okay, does anyone have any question? So, mm, my question is, how do we determine the best method to use for our user research? So it depends on the one that works for. Sometimes it depends on the project you're working on. So there are some projects that you might be working on. The information that you need to start design is already online. So it's just for you to go online and read up, understand how this particular kind of system works. So this one that you have to read up, I think, is secondary research. You have to read up about the information. This one you don't need to start interviewing people. There are some products like that. Before you design them, the information you need to um the information that can help you to start design is already online. Why there are some you need to interview the people that will be using it, all those stuff. So that's just it. It depends on the project you are working on. At times it also depends on the budget you have. So those answer your question, Emmanuel. Question is, this class is user research or it's a user research or well, I don't understand the question. So that I'll ask you, maybe you're asking what we learned today. Maybe you joined late. So we are learning about user research method. So we talked about two categories of there are two ways to categorize user research: who conduct the research and the type of data being collected. So we looked at that. So we also have common research methods, which is interview, surveys, usability testing. So that's just it. Kojo, did what I say answer your question? Please hold on with the question of where can you find the slide. I will reach out to the admin to confirm if I can share the slide. So if that is approved, I'll send it on the Discord group. So is there any other question? So does it mean we don't really need statistics tools to analyze our data collection? So statistics tools, we still need them now. I made mention of quantitative research. It depends on the project you are working on. There are some research that you might have to know the statistics of people facing this particular challenge. By you knowing the statistics, it determines whether the future should be built. So I don't know if that answers your question, Emmanuel Labi, Owolabi Emmanuel. So is there any other question? So do we have any other question before we call it a day? So in the absence of any other question, let's call it a day. So see you all in our next class next week on Wednesday by 4:30. So yeah, bye guys.
Bye. Thank you.